About the cloture vote that just occurred shortly before the senator from Rhode Island sought the unanimous consent agreement. And as you know, cloture was denied on that bill, and as you also know very well, that doesn't mean the bill is defeated. It simply means that the opportunity to amend it isn't eliminated. There haven't been any amendments. That's unfortunate, but what I want to just stress, my concern about this bill has nothing to do with the purpose of the bill. It's not about the approximately $280 billion of new spending that is meant to be required under this bill for the VA to cover Medicare and other health care, I should say, and other benefits for veterans who are exposed to toxic burn pits. What I want to change has absolutely nothing to do with any of that. I see the chairman of the Committee of Jurisdiction. I think he understands that I have no interest in modifying the purpose of this bill, all the work that he and many others have done. And by the way, I suspect there's 85 votes for this bill, for the underlying bill, if we fix this problem. And here's the problem. Completely unrelated to the $280 billion of new spending, there is a mechanism created in this bill. It's a budgetary gimmick that has the intent of making it possible to have a huge explosion in unrelated spending, $400 billion. This budgetary gimmick is so unrelated to the actual veterans issue that has to do with burn pits that it's not even in the House version of this bill. So the fact is, we can fix this tonight. This is relatively easy fix. There might be a few technical things we'd iron out, and we could get this done tonight. And I know the chairman of the committee very much wants to get this bill done. This is the path to do it. And if we fix this, which, as I say, I would recommend we fix it tonight, we could do that by a unanimous consent request. We could do it any number of ways. But once that's done, this bill sails through this chamber and goes to the president and gets signed into law. So I just want to urge my Democratic colleagues to join me in working this out. This is not what this bill was about. We can fix it. We can do it immediately. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Senator from Montana.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. President. The good senator from Pennsylvania is correct. I want to see this bill passed, and I want to see this bill passed for all the reasons I've talked about many times in committee and on this floor. This is about living up to the promises for our veterans. This is about making sure that the veterans come back, when they come back from exposures to burn pits or oil well fires or to Agent Orange, that they don't have to go to the VA and fight for their health care and their benefits. It impacts 3.5 million veterans in this country. By the way, there'll be a few more die before we get this bill passed. And I would also say that, as the senator from Pennsylvania says, you know, I'm all for the $278.4 billion over 10 years on this bill. I got no problem with that. Well, the fact is he does have a problem with that. The fact is, by doing what happened today on this floor, the real issue here, and make no mistake about it, is the money that's being spent to take care of our veterans. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. If you have the guts to send somebody to war, then you better have the guts to take care of them when they get back home. Or don't send them in the first place. Now let's talk about the $400 billion, okay? Because quite frankly, what this is about not even trusting the people in this body. We have an appropriations committee and we vote on appropriations bills, and we set the levels in the accounts based off of appropriations. Let the process work. Let's not tie the hands of appropriators. Let's make sure we let the process work. That's what we've always done. But the good senator from Pennsylvania's amendment ties the hands of the appropriators. Make no mistake about this. The American people are sick and tired of the games that go on in this body. They're sick and tired of us working for Democrats or working for Republicans and not working for the American people. But this is bigger than that. We have an all-volunteer military in this country. If you don't think young people are watching what we're doing today, that are thinking about signing up for the military, you're sadly mistaken. And when we don't take care of our veterans when they come home, they're going to say, why should I ever sign the dotted line? Because the promises that I made and the promises the country made, only half that deal is being respected. My half. This is a sad day in the United States Senate. This is the biggest issue facing our veterans today. Make no mistake about it. If it wasn't, every veteran service organization wouldn't be out there talking to us and have been talking to me for the last 15 years. So we can make up all sorts of excuses about how this is going to move money around, but let me tell you something. We're the ones that decide that. If we want to move money around, we will. If we don't, we won't. In the meantime, let's pass this bill. Let's get veterans the health care they've earned. If it isn't, it's political malpractice. What we're doing today with this policy, by putting this policy off, does nobody any good whatsoever. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Senator from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I will just briefly and simply reiterate my request that our Democratic colleagues, including the chairman, who obviously is passionate about this, just engage with us to fix this problem that has nothing to do with the bill that he wants to pass. This problem that wasn't in the House version of this bill. The chairman's argument that, well, it's always ultimately subject to appropriations, well, that's really an argument that says, let's not have a budget at all. Let's not have any rules, because it's true, a future Congress can always do whatever it wants. So by that logic, we should have no rules, no guidelines, no budgets, no procedures, no pay-go, no effort whatsoever to have any management of our federal budget. Because what the hell, any Congress can come along and just waive it. I don't agree with that. I think especially at a time when inflation is running rampant, when we've been spending money like no one's ever imagined. If we've got an important need, okay, we do that. But this gimmick, I mean, the chairman said people are sick and tired of games. I totally agree. This is one of those games where you've got a bill that's going to pass, and so let's sneak in this change in the budget rules so that it'll be easy to spend money on other things in the future. That's ridiculous. That's just not defensible. So again, I would stress there's a very easy path to a very big vote in favor of this bill that could happen, probably could happen later tonight, could certainly happen tomorrow. And the path is to let's fix this problem. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Senator from Montana.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. President. I'm going to reiterate what I said before. The concern that the President for Pennsylvania has is a concern that there's not a lot of trust in this body, and I agree, it's a fair reason to be. As far as having rules, I believe in having rules, but I don't believe we should have rules that tie the hands of our standing committees. That says you can't do this. Appropriations, I don't care what you see, what issue comes down the road for veterans, in this case Martin Heinrich, the chair, and John Bozeman, the ranking member, you guys can't address it. And that's what the senator from Pennsylvania wants to do. That's not how this process should work. We should be dealing with issues as they arise. That is a fact. And by the way, I've said for some time we should be looking at programs that have outlived their lifespan. We should be cutting those programs. We don't do that very well. But we've been at war for 20 years. With that war that, by the way, was all put on the credit card, there was a fair amount of it was funded by an OCO account. And now we're going to say, oh, no. We're not going to spend the money to take care of our veterans. I'm going to use this as an excuse. I'm going to use as an excuse the fact that the Appropriations Committee might spend too much money. Well, that's on us. And while that's on us, we have veterans dying of cancers and lung conditions because a bill that should have been passed before the 4th of July is still on the floor today. You can frame it any way you want. But in the end, this budgetary gimmick is called how the Congress works. Appropriators appropriate. If you don't believe me, ask Senator Shelby. That's what we do. And if we appropriate too much, this body votes it down. Or if we don't appropriate enough, this body votes it down and amends it up. That's what appropriators do. That's how this process is supposed to work. So we should not be using that excuse to deny benefits to the men and women who have served this country in a god-awful place in the Middle East. I yield.